I built a budget Steam machine for half the price of Valve's official model. Of course, we're not going to hit the form factor of a real Steam machine, given that it's using custom parts, but this thing does outperform the official Steam machine in every benchmark that I've run it on, and again, it was only half the price. So yeah, this is it. I'm running official SteamOS 3.8 on this thing, and you can actually build one of these today. Parts are available over on eBay. I'll leave links for everything that I used. And if you wanted to spend a little more, if you wanted to get close to that Steam machine price, for the base model, they're asking $1,049. You could more than double the performance of the official Steam machine building something like this. But I wanted to keep it as cheap as possible. And to tell you the truth, with the unit that I chose to use, I'm actually coming in well under half the cost of the Steam machine. I mentioned you can build it for around half the cost because you might not find these B-grade PCs all the time over on eBay. But if you keep your eye out, you can get in on this for really cheap. And it would definitely be nice if we could reach the form factor of the official Steam machine, but unfortunately the way it is right now, there's no Radeon GPUs that are going to fit in something like that. We don't have any really great low-profile AMD GPUs on the market. So what I ended up using was a B-grade Optiplex tower. This is powered by an Intel Core i7-10700. It's a non-K variant because it's a little Dell machine. It came with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM and a 512 gigabyte M.2 SSD. I needed to add a few things to make this a real gaming machine or to turn it into a Steam machine. So I added a better power supply, RX 7600 non-XT variant with 8 gigs of VRAM. All of these were used parts that I picked up over on eBay except for the power supply and the adapter. And right now, if you take a look, a non-B grade unit, and again, if you can find a B grade unit, you can get it much cheaper, around $200. And with a B grade PC, usually the exterior is pretty scratched up, few dents here and there. But if you're just going to game on it, it's not going to be a show PC, then it's probably worth doing something like that. But just taking a quick look over on eBay, at the very top, 270, it's got 12 gigs of RAM with no hard drive. So I'd go with the Optiplex 7080. It's got the i7-10700, 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD, and 16 gigs of VRAM right out of the box. If you don't mind bidding on something, waiting a little while, you can probably get that cheaper. But the next thing you'll need is a decent GPU. And I would recommend something like an RX 6600 or the RX 7600, which is the one I'm going to be using. I've seen the XFX model go on sale for $239 over on Amazon, so you can get it new there. Or if you want to pick it up used, you can get them for like $240 when they're not on sale. So just keep an eye out, Amazon and eBay, for new and used parts. But with these Optiplex units, especially the one that I have, which is a 3880, the power supply isn't going to work out for the 7600 or even an RX 6600. So you'll need to upgrade that. But most of the Optiplexes out there use a proprietary connector. Luckily, it's only $7. That way you can add something like a 500 watt TFX, which will fit right in the bottom of these units. Add that $7 connector, and you've got a power supply that'll work with your GPU. Another thing that I did here was just add an extra fan up front. This is one that I had laying around. Just mounted it right there to draw some air in, and even with the front panel on, it's still going to get some fresh air into the case. And so far, I mean, this thing's been working out really well. Recently on the channel, we took a look at the official Steam machine, and for the price and the performance it's putting out right now, it's a bit lackluster. So what I did here was just kind of compare some benchmarks, and these are without FSR. Of course, we can do scaling with this. If I'm going to be playing on a cheap machine, I don't mind using scaling. I personally don't even mind using frame generation, knowing that I'm trying to save some money here. And with this setup, given that it's half the cost of the Steam machine, at 1080 with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we're 11% faster. At 1440p, it's 14% faster. And at 4K, it's 27% faster, but both of these do kind of fall on their face at 4K with no FSR. The next one I have here is Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. This is one that just really struggles in SteamOS in my opinion. At 1080, this machine's 10.3% faster. It's over 18% faster at 1440 and 42% faster at 4K resolutions. But still, with this game, 4K without frame gen, it's not going to be great. And the final one here, I just put head to head with Cyberpunk 2077. At 1080, the Steam machine does a pretty decent job. We're only 8.1% faster with this machine. At 1440, it jumps up to an 11% gain. And at 4K, we've got a gain of around 55%. When the Steam Machine was announced, Valve stated that it could do 4K 60 with some scaling, but seeing that at 4K Ultra with no scaling whatsoever, the official Steam Machine only hits around 18 FPS, it's going to take a lot of scaling to get it up to 60. But those were just some benchmarks without any FSR. Now I want to take a look at some real-world performance, because when it comes to a cheap machine like this, most people are just going to get on it and play for fun. Usually, when you're doing that, it doesn't matter if you scale a bit, or maybe even use some frame gen. And right now, I've got Crimson Desert at 1440p medium settings, but the weird thing here is I'm using XeSS 3.0, because from within the settings, we do have access to FSR 4.1, but XeSS seems to work a bit better, at least with this RX 7600 the way it is right now. And if you look down the list, it says that I've got XeSS frame generation turned on. And it's kind of odd because we've got an AMD card. Now, I'm not sure if it's just kind of bugged out here and it's using FSR frame gen or not, but it's super smooth like this, and we're seeing a decent frame rate out of it. Over 85 FPS on average, and yeah, we're generating frames, but we're working with a really cheap Steam machine that we built with used parts from eBay, so I'm not the guy who's going to be complaining about it. But this was the only game that we used frame generation with in this video. Next game I wanted to test here was Cyberpunk 2077, and it's really hard to beat the performance that we're seeing here for the price, especially with RAM prices and GPU prices right now. If you go to NVIDIA and you want to get a used NVIDIA card, you can definitely do it in Windows. But to build a SteamOS machine with a dedicated AMD GPU, this is working way better than I thought it would. We're at 1440p, high preset, seeing over 74 FPS on average. The next one I have here is Doom the Dark Ages. We're at 1440p, medium settings with FSR set to balance. We're seeing over 80 FPS on average. Looks great here at 1440p, super smooth frame rate, and it's fully playable on this machine. Here's Forza Horizon 6, 1440p, high settings, and even though we've got the RX 7600, which is based on RDNA 3, we can still access FSR 4.1. Unfortunately, it does seem to have a lot of overhead with RDNA 3 right now. Doesn't work as well as something like FSR 3, but we really don't need it here. We're at a native 1440p, high settings. The next one I have here is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And I wanted to test this again because I did test it in my video on the official Steam machine, and at 1440p medium, the same settings that we're using here, we were only seeing an average of around 56 FPS on the Steam machine. With this, we're up to around 87 FPS on average. It's a pretty big jump, but it's not a super hard game to run, and this is basically the only one that I saw such a dramatic increase on. But still, I mean, it's running way better than it does on the official Steam machine. And in the end, we only paid half of what the Steam machine is going for. So yeah, overall, something like this can definitely be built by basically anybody out there as long as you're patient and find those parts used over on eBay. Unfortunately, building a brand new PC to compete with the Steam machine is going to bring you over that half cost. But if you wanted to match that cost of the Steam machine at $1,049, you could definitely build something new that will really outperform it. Again, I wanted to go as cheap as possible, and I'll be the first one to admit it's not the best looking PC out there, but that's not what we were going for with this unit. I'd personally much rather have the Steam machine sitting on my desk or in my entertainment center, but given that you can put something like this together for half the cost and it's going to outperform the Steam machine, some people would rather have the rest of that money in their pocket. But in the end, it's really up to you. And if you do want to put something like this together, I will leave links for everything I used in the description below. And I will have a video coming up matching the Steam machine's cost, just to see what kind of performance we can get out of a PC building it brand new at $1,049. So if you're interested in seeing a video like that, it'd be pretty cool if you could hit that like button and think about subscribing. But that's it for this one. And like always, thanks for watching.